We'll continue our conversation, Mrs. Anderson. And now I want us to go a little bit into what you did as you were developing this handbook, a practical handbook for breastfeeding moms. Now, as I was reading it, I noticed that you paid attention to the mothers themselves. You were giving them advice. You were saying, don't be frustrated, you must persevere. You were saying that other members of the family must help out, and so on. And you were giving all this advice. And even though this advice wasn't directly how to breastfeed, but it was very much there. Was that a deliberate decision on your part?
Yes, that was deliberate because to breastfeed successfully, you must have a support system. You must have a support system. So the family, and the other thing is, having a baby is a family affair. If the baby is not happy, nobody's happy. If the baby is crying, nobody is happy. Everybody gets frustrated when the baby is crying. So you must have a family, a support system. The other thing is the mothers, they have no patience, for want of a better word, and they give up very easily because these problems, these little early, they come very early, the challenges, some of the challenges of breastfeeding, they come very early, so that when I go home tomorrow, Tuesday, by Thursday, or by this afternoon, my nipples are sore. And it's become so sore this afternoon. So tomorrow, Wednesday, it becomes sore again. By Thursday, it may even bleed. And then when it's so sore, I don't really want to breastfeed. So I will tell my husband, go out and get something else, some sort of substitute or something else, because I am sore. Or they will take time to breastfeed.
So you see the need to maintain, because you are doing it all through the book.
Yes.
Maintain that word of encouragement, motivation, and so on, to make sure that they do persist in terms of the act of breastfeeding.
Yes, because these mothers around that time, just after birth,
yes,
these mothers, we do not want them to get depressed. And not being able to breastfeed can be a great factor in any sort of depression or baby blues that's coming. You want them, it's a happy time. You have a newborn baby, it's a happy time. People congratulate you, your colleagues congratulate you. So, and they give up very easily. So we know the importance. I know the importance of breastfeeding, and the mother knows too. To some extent, she would have attended antenatal clinic or could see her doctor before she had the baby. So she knows to some extent that breast milk, giving the baby breast milk, is important. But then when she has the baby in her hand, it's something, because I've got a live, tangible baby now. It's not in there, it's in my hand now. So she's got this tangible baby who is crying and who is completely, totally dependent on her. But she, as a person, is now a mother. She's not a young woman, a girlfriend again. She is now take on the role of motherhood. So, and that brings its challenges, and that can be very stressful on
So
the mother.
you saw the need to keep pointing them in the direction, don't give up,
Yes.
and to write that into the book.
Exactly. It needs to be written. It needs to be in a written form, because when you tell the mother, don't give up, I don't know what she's talking about. Now, she don't know the pain I have. She don't know that I don't have enough breast milk, and she doesn't know this, and she doesn't know that. That is old wives' tale. And so there is a need for that constant encouragement and pushing and a sort of holding your hand and walking through your breastfeeding experience.
I saw that definitely in the book as you went through the whole thing. Now, besides that motivational aspect in the book. What can you say are the main areas that you covered inside the book?
Yeah, the main areas, well, the initial main areas is latching, getting the baby to get on, actually to get on the breast and stay on the breast. That can be a problem in a lot of cases because many mothers, especially young mothers, think, oh, I have my baby and I can't get him to latch, and why isn't he latching on? But this is a learning experience, not only for the mother, but for the baby too. And sometimes the mother, in an eagerness or in an attempt to breastfeed, she puts the baby on the nipple. And she says, well, as long as you're on the nipple, you're supposed to get milk. You see? So I found there is a need of showing her the latch, an illustration, and explaining as well that when you put the baby on the nipple, the baby would not have enough, and myriads of problems. It's a cascade of problems that will take place. So that is very important, the latching onto the areola and how you actually position your baby, how you actually position your baby and hold your baby in a position where he or she can get to the dark area, which we call which is known as the areola of the thing. Then the sore nipples that we mentioned. And then the milk tends to come in about 2 days, so about 30, 40 hours after you have a baby.
So therefore, you know, the latching is one area that you dealt with. And I see that as having to do with the procedures of how you do breastfeeding. Were there any other areas where you had to give them instructions on the process of breastfeeding?
Yes, I had to give them instructions on the working of breast milk, the production, the secretion of breast milk in a way that they can understand it. And many of the mothers, they seem to think that, well, I have breast milk, I don't have breast milk, and how can I get more breast milk? And so I went in detail to explain to them that the secretion of breast milk is a whole hormones. You know, you got to take the hormones and the back of the brain. There's a gland in the back of the brain, and when the baby sucks on the areola, the message would go up to the brain, and the impulse will come back down so that milk will be produced. Sometimes I would even tell him, it's like putting your hand on a hot stove. You put it, message go and come back. So, and I go into detail because many of the mothers do not realize that the more you put the baby on, the more milk you get. That's how the body works. And I go into detail to let them know that if you put the baby, once you have something going on the breast and stimulating the breast, impulse will always go up. And the flip side of that is if no stimulation is there, you wouldn't get any breast milk.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned just now about the role of hormones, and I did see, now since I'm not going to remember it, you talked about two hormones, prolactin and oxytocin.
Yes. Oxytocin, yes. Oxytocin, yes.
And then there was, besides the hormones, there were some other words like colostrum and so on inside the book. So I see that you built in some background education. You think that was necessary to have?
Yes, that was necessary because along their way, their pregnancy journey, they would have heard these words, colostrum, and they would, from their clinic and from their doctor and from friends as well, they would have heard that colostrum, yes, you can give it to the baby. Some, the older, very older generations will say, well, colostrum is not real milk, it's to be thrown away. So they would be sort of familiar with that word. And so all you have to do, all I had to do now is sort of drag out the detail, drag it out a little bit. Yes, this is what colostrum really is. This is what prolactin is one of the hormones that works better at night, and prolactin is one of the hormones that produces breast milk. Oxytocin is the hormones that stimulates the cells and contracts the cell. And when it contracts the cell, it would push the breast milk out. So you sort of let them understand how these hormones make, so that when they put the baby to the breast, they would see these things working in their
Why do you think
brain.
This additional information? I mean, one could say, listen, if I could just get the baby to go properly, do the latching on the breast, that is important, right? And so once I get that, that's okay. Why do you think it is necessary to do this explanation about colostrum and these two
The hormones.
hormones? Why do you think it was important to include those details that you're talking about
Yes.
in a book that is just basically saying how to breastfeed?
Yes, because the book is exclusively about how to breastfeed. You cannot breastfeed without mentioning, if you want to educate and empower the woman, you cannot do that without mentioning these two hormones, prolactin and oxytocin. There are other hormones, but these are the two basic hormones that you hear sprinkled here and there in your walk and in your journey. You would hear it. And it also provides a knowledge base for the mother. Colostrum is the first milk that comes out of the baby. And it comes out thick. It comes out in drips, so that when the mother tells me, I have no milk, she may squeeze her breast and she would see a little bubble, a little thick, little tingy yellowish thing, looking very thick, almost like glue coming out. I said, that is colostrum, and you have to give the baby that. So it needs to be explained, because somewhere along the line, she heard about colostrum, but she didn't really appreciate the importance of the colostrum.
So this knowledge base, as you call it, is important.
It is important for the mother, yes.
What expertise do you bring? It's obvious that you bring a lot of expertise, but could you put together in a few words what is the expertise that you brought that qualified you to write a book like this?
Well, my experience since 2005, especially 2006, where I had that sort of mandate, and I had to go deeper and research it and so on. And during that time, I said, but how this breast milk is very important. And mothers, they skate through it and say, well, if I breastfeed, if I don't breastfeed, it's no big thing, you see. And then I saw the real importance. When I started to read, I saw the real importance of breastfeeding.
Where did your reading take you?
It took me to doing the international lactation consultant course. Right. Yes, it took me to studying a lot of studying to be done in that course, and then you have to
Where was that course offered?
In America. In America, it's not local. But although if I needed to tell people about breastfeeding and breast milk, especially the importance of breast milk, I have to know.
Of course.
I have to know. I have to have a good, solid foundation and base, and not only a foundation, but I have to be able to field the questions and know, well, if you ask me that, what is the answer? If you tell me about cow's milk, I have to know why isn't it. If I tell you, you tell me about goat's milk, I have to know.
How long did that course last?
About 2 years. About 2 years. I think 2 years. Yes. But before that, I went into a lot of studying, while I was here, I went into a lot of studying.
Good. If you were to measure the success of the book, we're coming to the end now. What would you say are that you would look for to say that, how would you measure whether this book has been successful or not? How would you measure it?
When persons read the book, especially doctors, professional people, read the book and they say, yes, we needed that book and so on, it's unique and so on, because we haven't had a book like that in Trinidad and Tobago and so on. In fact, we haven't had an exclusively written breastfeeding book. You may find some other books, and I found that when I was writing my book, because I got other books about breastfeeding and I look into them and I see they've got bathing, they've got layered, they've got this, they've got that, they've got the chair, they've got the everything. And breastfeeding just had 2 pages, a component of the whole book. Whereas this is exclusively about breastfeeding, and we sort of needed that. And I could measure it by professional people, even mothers who are still in my class, and I would go to them, and they would say, yes, well, how come you write this book, and so on, and things like that. And then you have the sales. It would be slow, but steady, because nobody has ever written a book on breastfeeding, especially in Trinidad and Tobago before. So I don't think many people know that it's out there yet, because it's only recently been published.
Thank you very much for this very enlightening discussion. And thanks for sharing this with us. And all the best to you and the book as well. As mothers outside here get to know of this rich resource that you have produced for them. Thanks very much, Mrs. Anderson.
Well, thank you very much. I hope my interview was very, very helpful.
Very much so.
Thank you.